Hey gang, it's Ruben. Welcome back to the Placebo Effect Podcast. So this episode we're going to be talking about politics, y'all. Everyone's favorite divisive topic. Look, 'tis the season. So I felt it was appropriate to have a topic on politics. Not because I have a take about a particular subject, but just because this is the time of year where the dial gets turned up to 11 on the haterade, on the us versus them mentality. The media propaganda machine is real, y'all. They are going to do everything and anything in their power to get you to dehumanize your fellow citizen. And that's really what I want to get into. So this topic is going to be about empathy for your neighbor. Empathy for your fellow citizen. Now, if your reaction right now is, well, you know what? They want to vote for so-and-so, and that person's a piece of shit. If they're going to vote for that person, I can't stand with that guy. Well, then that means you think that your party's the righteous party. That your party's the one with the good ethics. Was that really true? Really? Because, I mean, let's face it. We have a two-party system and that's it. Which means all the issues have to be binary. That's way too simplified of a scenario. The American voting system is broken in the sense that we don't have a lot of choice. And for a country that loves its capitalism and loves about its choice for consumers, we sure are lacking in this department. And so we've been at a state for quite some time where the candidates don't even have to worry about trying to stand on issues, try to get you to vote based on a particular topic. Instead, they want to just try to make you hate on the other person. They want to use haterade to get your vote. And that's where I would ask you to sympathize with your fellow neighbor. Well, but those MAGA people, they're a bunch of racists. Who said so? The media? Is that really who we want to be our source of truth, our source of trust? These media outlets are all about wanting to sell. They want to get clickbait online, or they want to get you to turn on the dial on cable TV so they can get ad revenue. That's all they're interested in. Hate sells. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in propaganda. Both sides do it. You know, the left's going to say, oh, Fox News is fake news. Well, guess what? The right's going to say, MSNBC is fake news. And so if you think your sources of information are the right and the correct one, stop and consider for a second, do you even spend any time looking at any of the other sources? Are you only seeking confirmation bias, or are you really looking to try to get educated and informed about a particular topic? Most people aren't, and not because they're lazy, but just ain't nobody got time for that, right? I know I'm guilty of that. I know I get busy in my day-to-day life that I don't want to be looking up 17 different news sources for one piece of information that's not all that important to me. Look, if your position is like, well, I can't vote for a side that supports insurrection and insurrectionists. That's what plenty of people on the left believe about those that want to vote for Trump. Whether or not January 6th was or was not an actual insurrection, let's just table that. I don't really want to deep dive any topic. What I'm saying is that's how the left feels about this. Meanwhile, the right's like, well, look, I can't vote for a candidate that during all those protests during COVID that were mostly peaceful, when buildings were burning and people were throwing Molotov cocktails at federal courthouses, Kamala Harris was freaking setting up GoFundMes to bail out these criminals that were nothing more than looters and rioters. And whether or not there's truth to that, that's how some people on the right feel about that. And so, are you stopping and taking a moment to sympathize or empathize with your neighbor, with your fellow citizen? If you're only looking for confirmation bias, then you're just in an echo chamber. I know I've been guilty of it. I know I've been guilty of looking at the other side and going, man, what's wrong with those people? And it's happening all the time, every day. And we have to do a better job about loving our neighbor. We have to do a better job about loving our fellow citizens. Because sometimes it's not always about the candidate that's the us versus them. Sometimes the issue is weaponized in the us versus them. I'm going to dive right into a super controversial topic to make a point here. Let's get into abortion for a second, right? If you're on the right, you're pro-life. And the pro-life position is that it's wrong to kill humans in the womb. To just have a carte blanche, to just go kill a human being just because you feel like it, just because you don't want to be burdened by it. Say, well, how could somebody really be willing to vote for a candidate that wants to murder babies? Whether or not that's really true, understand that position has a moral ethic to it. And it's reasonable for people to think that killing babies in utero is a bad idea. And we have legislative protections for human rights across the board. So why would extending human rights to a child in utero be an evil? In and of itself, it's not. So the right does have an ethic here. If somebody kills a pregnant woman, they're going to get charged for double murder, for example. So clearly we understand that that is a second human life carried during a pregnancy. And a lot of the propaganda rhetoric, like clump of cells and that is meant to try to dehumanize that human life, to deny this ethical position. But then on the left, right, their position is, well, look, all of you pro-lifers, you basically taken this authoritative fascist position, and now you've got women bleeding out on the street because they have a legitimate health issue and the doctors can't do anything about it because you've made it illegal for them to intervene on this because of how strict your abortion law is, and now you're causing risk to the mother too. How dare you, you freaking fascist? And whether or not there's truth or substance to the details of that, it's more about, is that position reasonable? Are you willing to sympathize with that position? Sympathizing doesn't mean agreeing with it. It just means, do you have some relatability? Can you relate to the passion of the other side? Because you probably have passion about the topic. So why is it not okay for your neighbor, your friend, your coworker, your cousin, your mom, your whomever, insert whomever here, to have a similar passion in the opposite view? The whole my body, my choice rhetoric. That thing goes two different ways. On the left, they're like, it's a woman's body to choose and you should not intervene in this, you authoritative government. Okay? Well, the right used that language in the opposite way for COVID. They were like, how dare you try to mandate vaccinations? It should be my body, my choice. You shouldn't get to decide what goes into my body, you freaking authoritative, fascist, dictatorial government. And some people may choose to just have resentment about that and are voting a certain kind of way based on that. And if you think the other side voting in the opposite direction of how you feel about it makes that person evil, I would say maybe look in the mirror, brah. Because what does that even mean? Like, are you the standard of good? Is your party the standard of good? We don't require somebody to pass a test to go vote. People get to vote for all kinds of reasons: good, bad, dumb, smart, indifferent, educated, ignorant, whatever your position is. The freedom to vote is exactly that. It's a freedom. It's a right. You have a right to go vote however you want to. And we need to stop turning the volume up on things that get ridiculous when it becomes this guilt-shaming bullying scenario. For example, there was a little bit of controversy when it came to Brittney Mahomes, who is the wife of Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes. And apparently she liked a social media post by Trump and took a lot of heat and flack and criticism for that, to the point to where it got a segment on The View where the panel got into it, and Sunny decided that she was going to shame the Mahomes family and say, well, if you're an interracial family, if you stand for people of color, how could you dare to like a post by a racist?
More women about the true character of Donald Trump and will turn them away. But to your initial point, I know you said we weren't going to talk about it, but I was. It just seems to me that since she is in an interracial marriage, she should have known that to support a racist is problematic. Her children are biracial, and her family is one of the families that in the 70s could not have lived in any of Donald Trump's buildings. So it just seems to me that maybe she's just not that politically savvy, or maybe she's just not read in.
Granted,
but it's
all we know is
problematic.
that she liked a Trump post. We don't know. She hasn't stated that she supported him, but that's fair to interpret that she may have. But we don't know that she's a supporter.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, really, we're in the guilting and shaming business now. People aren't allowed to like whatever social media post that they want to. And is Trump really a racist? Says who? The media propaganda machine has been trying to paint that picture only since he's been a political candidate.
But what has been so disappointing is all of this race baiting now for 3 days in a row. Well, actually, it's been just about for 4 years in a row. But guess what? Donald Trump did not start all of this race baiting. You know, if we look back a little bit, Donald Trump contributed twice to Kamala's campaign, $5,000 one time, $1,000 another, when she was running for different races and all. And he was fine, and no one called him a racist for 30 or 40 years when he was in New York. Why? He was a Democrat.
But they sure were best buds with Trump before that. Last I checked, if you're a racist, you can be wearing your racism on your heart and on your sleeves in every area of your life. And yet, Trump had an NBC show. He was on WWE. He had cameos in movies. Rappers rapped about him. You know, he was a super popular, fun guy. Went on Oprah, or Oprah even asked him at one point if he wanted to be a presidential candidate. Did all the late night talk show beats.
I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life.
Let's get into some things. The Reform Party, by its name, means reform. You will be leaving, if you run this, you believe in what? The Republican Party, I believe.
I'm a registered Republican. I'm a pretty conservative guy. I'm somewhat liberal on social issues, especially health care, etc.
Do you have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
It's just...
Oprah, I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice.
Oprah.
Oprah, your competitor, right?
Oprah's a competitor.
You know what?
No
I'll tell you, she's really a great woman, though. She is a terrific woman. She's somebody that's very special.
Everybody used to love Trump until it was decided that he was public enemy number one. And the propaganda machine decided that. That didn't mean it was true. That means it's just gossip, slander, and rumors and propaganda that's being force-fed down the public's mouths, and a lot of people are going to swallow that Kool-Aid. To where not only do they think Trump is a racist, but apparently wearing a red ball cap makes you equivalent to being a Nazi. I mean, really?
Do you guys have any Republican friends?
No, thank God.
Do you guys have any Republican friends?
No.
No. Do you have any Republican friends?
No.
Why not?
I wouldn't be friends with someone who's Republican.
Why is that?
I don't like that kind of extremism.
See, why it got to be extremism? This is where we're at, is that people literally perceive other people in a demonized way.
Why do you think you don't have any Republican friends?
I don't tolerate it.
I don't want to.
Like, don't tolerate it. See, we're so divisive. If you don't want to, like, that's fine, but the lack of tolerance is because of all of the hate propaganda that's been going on in this country.
Do you think, like, it would be hard for you to be friends with a liberal?
Absolutely not. No. I feel like a lot of people are too closed-minded on that topic. They'll kill an entire relationship over a political interest.
Liberals are more like 100% like more against Trump supporters.
We need to stop being so quick to want to dehumanize our fellow citizens and start seeking to sympathize, relate, and have some empathy for our fellow citizens. Because look, there was 80 million people that voted blue in the last election. And that doesn't mean there are 80 million socialist communists, which is a talking point on the right. And there was 72 million people that voted on the right in the last election. And guess what? That doesn't mean there are 72 million racists on the right. Let's try to find ways to come together and be reasonable people and be okay if your fellow neighbor, your family member, your coworker, your colleague, your fellow citizen chooses to vote for whomever the heck they want to vote for.
I don't think either group is problematic. I think the extremes of both ends are problematic. We lock ourselves in and paint the other as the extreme, and I think, how do we have conversations? How do we see the humanness of the other person?
Amen, Pastor. Let's look towards healing, my brothers and sisters. Let's look towards sympathizing and empathizing and attempting to relate to our fellow citizen. And the best way to do that is to just change the dial, or even better, turn it off. Turn off the TV, take a break from Facebook and Twitter/X, and go have coffee with your fellow neighbor or your family member. Take them out to lunch. Go have lunch with them. Call them up, see how they're doing. Insert whomever here that you might have some issue with in this subject, and let's try to build bridges instead of wanting to burn them all down. All right, gang, that's it for this episode. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel. God bless you guys.